Good afternoon, juniors. This is Mr. Vandehei talking to you this afternoon about scheduling. Today, the window begins where we are able to put in our course request for next year. As I'm talking to you, and this is going to take a little while, I got to go over all the things to clarify, make 100% sure that you know the lay of the land and all the classes and all the subjects going forward. Don't freak out. This is the day that we start putting in course requests for next year. There is actually a window. You'll see here I have what's called the schedule for scheduling. I'm going to pull up in just 1 second. And if you see the schedule for scheduling, there's a little window here. We can put in the courses we want to take for next year anytime between now and the 26th. And the 26th, which is 8 days from now, you'll have to finalize those. Your homeroom teacher will look at them, make sure you put in all the things you absolutely needed to put in. And of course, you'll have a bunch of choices with that. But anyway, today that window starts, and this screencast is going to take about 20 minutes. So I'm going to try to move fast here, but I think that's about the amount of information that we have to cover. Again, 20 minutes is a long time. So if you guys think you have a handle on some things and you want to open your Chromebooks and start getting to your schedule while I'm talking, that's fine. Just don't bother other people who are listening. And also, I will turn this screencast into a YouTube where you can revisit. If you say, I know Mr. Vandehei said something in the last couple of minutes, but I don't remember what it was, you can go back and just watch the last couple of minutes or whatever, if that may help you in any way. So first off, thing I'm going to say is I put a lot of information inside of Google Classroom, a lot of information, maybe even too much information, but 7 of these 8 links I think will be valuable to you. And again, from what you're looking at right now, the screencast is also in there by now. But 7 of the 8, you won't have to go into Zello itself, but the other ones do all have some value. There's a link to the graduation requirements for Brilliant High School. Sometimes going into junior year, people ask that, what are the graduation, what do I all need? The list will be right there. If you click graduation requirements, it's going to be hard to mess that up. I'm going to go through the areas one by one. I don't think you'll mess that up, but the requirements are here in case you need them. One thing to mention on the graduation requirements that get a tiny bit tricky, I guess, is there are what's called year independent requirements. That's brand new. Last year they brought in for you guys. Personal finance has to be taken sometime. They don't care what year you take it, but you've got to take it before you graduate or you don't graduate. So make sure you take and pass personal finance. The other one that's kind of a year independent requirement, sort of, is Phi-Ed. Because Phi-Ed, you can take 1 year off. The deal with Phi-Ed is you're able to take Phi-Ed every year if you want. You have to take it 2 out of your last 3 years because you have a 1.5 credit requirement, and you cannot take 2 in a single year. So you cannot take Phi-Ed twice in a single year. I would complain about that if I was young. I liked Phi-Ed, physical activity, things like that. But for you guys, that's just not allowed. So 1 Phi-Ed class per year max. You can take 1 year off. Is the story on Phi-Ed. And the other thing I would mention with Phi-Ed is there is a class called Unified Phi-Ed, where you match up with somebody who has certain needs. And if you wanted to be in that, Miss Kohler would have gotten information out and you would communicate it to her. If that's still highly interesting to you, you can look and talk to Mrs. Kohler, but do that as soon as possible because I think she's gotten that information out, and I think that was supposed to be done already. Okay, without further ado on that, other things that we have up here, we have the course offerings, which is probably going to be the most visited page. This is the page that tells everything that we offer at Brilliant High School and what years students can take them. Also has a little P in here in case you need prerequisites. I did put in here the math sequence in case that needs to be done. Math is going to be preloaded into your schedule. For juniors, math is placement, not choice. So your teacher is going to put you in there. If you vehemently disagree with what happens there, you need to talk to the math department about that, but they're going to place you in the proper math class on the ladder going up. For instance, if you're in fundamental geometry, you'd be going to Algebra 1B. Regular geometry would be into Algebra 2. If you're in Algebra 2 currently as a sophomore, you'd be jumping up into pre-calculus. So that's in your classroom also. Course descriptions, this is a nice page. You get the course descriptions inside your classroom. If you want to look at that, it's just called Link. We weren't able to put a title in there. That's just how it folds into there. But if you click on link, it's a very user-friendly way to go to any area you want. Hey, I want a Miss Graminski class. Just click right on Face. It's going to bring you right to her stuff and give you all the details. It has that for every single class in there. So you got that. We've got some info on CAP and AP for those who are going to take CAP and AP, and I'll touch upon some differences a little bit later. And I have some directions for getting to your schedule on Skyward itself. So I did give handouts to your homeroom teachers of the course offering sheets in case you want to mark them up. Some people like to take the course offering sheet and maybe circle what they want to have on paper before they actually put it down into the schedule itself. So when you go into Skyward, just another reminder from years back, you have to go into Skyward with your own username and password. You cannot go in with your parents' username and password. It won't work. It won't come up to your schedule. And then there's directions for getting to your schedule. You'd probably find it without the directions at this point. It'll say a schedule on the left-hand side, course request for 21, 22 on the top, something along that nature. But there's directions, and you would probably get there without directions. There'll be a list that has your stuff that's preloaded, which is only math right now, and the stuff that you want to put into your schedule will also be on the other side. And you have to go from the menu and put it into your real schedule, add on to that math thing until it gets up to the proper amount of credits, which we'll talk about in a second. So first thing, I want to cover some things. I want to cover the difference between CAP and AP. I want to cover each subject area and what you need to do. And then hopefully I'll have it within that 20-minute window, and you guys can have the last 10 minutes to yourselves to get started. So anyway, CAP and AP, those are two things that are kind of new this year. CAP and AP, and I'll talk a little bit about what's called weighted classes as well. But CAP and AP are both weighted classes. And I'll talk about that in a second, what that means. But the difference between CAP and AP is they're two of the four ways we have in Brilliant that a person can gather a little bit of college credit for stuff that they've done in high school. They're very different from each other. The AP classes, which it's possible a couple of you have taken an AP class even as a sophomore. The AP classes, the college credit part of it depends entirely on an end of the year test. It's a very big test. Usually if you score a 3 or above, you get some sort of credit at most colleges. I'd say about 85% of the colleges would give you some meaningful credit. If you took a social studies class that was AP and you went to that college, you'd have about an 85% chance of having that count for social studies. So that's a good way to do it. Generally, there's a little bit of variance in this. Generally, our classes for AP are 3 credits at college level. That's about 20% of a semester when you get to college. Probably saves you about $1,000. Is probably the monetary part of that. So that's AP, all or nothing on the AP test as far as the college credit goes. Otherwise, it's just a weighted and rigorous class at Brilliant that does look good at the highly competitive colleges and such. So that's AP. CAP is a little bit different game. CAP, you're going to take the class inside the classroom here, and it is simultaneously a CAP class is a Brilliant High School class and a UW Oshkosh class at the exact same time. What that means is Miss Van Camp or Miss Mathis or whoever's teaching that class is a UW Oshkosh professor and a Brilliant High School teacher at the same time. When you're done with a CAP class, if you've taken the CAP class, you've got UW Oshkosh credit if you paid the money on the front end. Now, there's a little piece to that. You have the option of taking the class. It'll say CAP pre-calculus or CAP statistics or CAP physics. You have an option of taking these classes and not doing the Oshkosh part of it. The work is the same. If you don't pay the money, you don't get the Oshkosh grade and the credit. So you have the option to do it just for Brilliant. We'll talk about that more in the start of May about how you go about turning it into Oshkosh credit or starting that process. But if it says CAP on it, that means you have the option of taking it for college credits going forward. We'll show up on the college transcript. Those classes, it's about a 70% discount. You are supposed to have, this is Oshkosh's standard, you are supposed to have a 3.25 GPA to get into a CAP class. Your teacher would have to sign a waiver. You'd have to be asking your teacher to sign a waiver, and you'd have to kind of plead your case on why you our CAP material if you don't meet the UW-Oshkosh standards for a CAP class. 3.25 is the bottom line to get in. So that's a little bit about CAP and AP. As far as things that you need to know, if you see me glancing down, I do have some notes here. I just don't want to miss anything. Okay. Notes on prerequisites and weighted classes. Those are some other things that show up. Make sure that on your make sure that when you take a class, if it has a P on it, that you take the prerequisite for that class. If you don't, your teacher's going to remove you anyway, and then your schedule will get more messy than it was before. So you want to do that. And the other thing is weighted. You're going to see on this course offering sheet, there's some classes that have this little asterisk by it. Right now, there's a little asterisk by pre-calculus as I'm looking at it. Some more classes down by calculus, there's an asterisk. Down by statistics, there's an asterisk. That means that those classes are what they call weighted. Okay. If you go down further, there'll be more in English. There'll be some weighted classes. In science, there'll be some weighted classes. I'm on one right now. Chemistry 2 is weighted. When it says weighted, what that means is normally when you take a class, if you get an A, it's worth 4 points. If you take a weighted class and you get an A on the weighted scale, they give you 5 points. So it bumps up your weighted GPA a little bit. Your weighted GPA gets to be a little bit higher than your regular GPA. We use the weighted GPA for our class rank. So for instance, if you had 86 kids in your class and you ranked 43rd, if a kid right next to you took a class that was not weighted and you took a weighted one and you got the exact same grade, that extra point on that class would give you a little bump up. Now, it's a small bump up, and I need to be fair to say that on your permanent record, where it has all that goes out to colleges and tech schools eventually, it'll show your non-weighted GPA and your weighted GPA side by side. So we can't say that colleges will look at the weighted GPA. A lot won't. A lot will look just at the regular GPA where an A is 4. But for our class rank purposes, we do give you that little extra bump for anything that's weighted, just a little bit of reward for taking something that has generally more work involved in it, a little bit more rigorous, I guess they would call it. So that's the notes on that. Again, I don't want to get too long-winded. I want to keep moving on. Okay, as far as math classes, things are preloaded. Again, if you want to lobby against what's on there, you need to go through the math department. The other thing I'll say with math is you do have an option next year to take a second math class, and that would be the CAP statistics class that Miss Mathis teaches. Again, that's the UW-Oshkosh class. You would have to get special permission if you're lower than the 3.25 CUME. Nice class. I like stats. Not easy. It gets done in one trimester, so you're getting through a lot of stuff in one try. But that's an option for you if you're higher level and you want to take on challenge beyond the class that you're already taking. So that's the math option. In English, your options are you can take English 11 or you can take AP English. Simple as that. AP, as you know, would be weighted and a little bit more work, a little bit more rigor, that kind of thing. So social studies, you have to take history of some way, shape, or form. You can take 20th century American history, which is the normal. That's what the typical student has taken. In the past, that was the only offering until this year. But 20th century American history, if you don't take 20th century American history, then you have to take the AP U.S. history because American history is a state requirement. A person does have to take take a credit of history at Brillion to get through our graduation and to graduate. But beyond that, if you wish, there's 2 other AP offerings that a person could take. A person could take AP government and a person could take AP psychology. They're on the menu. They can't replace all of history. You have to have 1 credit of history in there because that's state requirement. You can add on and bulk up on social studies by taking one of the other 2 AP classes. So that's social studies. Moving on to science. Science, there's all kinds of options for you. The most typical would be chemistry or physical science. Chemistry is more likely to be taken than physical science if a person's going to 4-year college. That gets tricky. 4-year colleges will accept physical science. If you had 5 admissions officers in the room, they would say we prefer chemistry. But there's also other things on the menu. You have the physics, you have human anatomy, you have things like that. Anything that has an 11, we're not telling you what you have to take, but you do have to take your third credit of science by your third year. So junior year, they fill you up a little bit. It's not like senior year where you get all kinds of options. Junior year, you're going to have English, you're going to have math, you're going to have science, you're going to have social studies. So that's 4 credits that are going to be chewed up. You do have to take 6 by the time you're done. 4 are those subject areas. You're going to have to take at least 6. You can take up to 7.5. I would say that if you're not sure, take a little bit more right now to throw into your schedule, because you can always peel them off. If you take 7.5 credits and say, nope, I decided I want to study hall all 3 tries, you can always peel a few off and get down to 6, because 6 credits would be a study hall all 3 tries. So if you have the tally in your Skyward, it'll read right on Skyward how many you have in there. If it reads 6 credits, then you're good, barring any conflicts, going forward. Okay. A couple other things: when you log into Skyward, you do have to log in under your own name, like we said before. You have to get up to 6 credits. Skyward does auto save, so if you go in there and put in 4 credits today and you say, how do I save this thing? You don't save it, it just auto saves. That'll be all right. You just have to get back and get up to at least 6, or anywhere up to 6.5, 7.5 max. By the time 8 days later rolls around, we'll go back in the homeroom and go with your teachers. So the portal's open right now. You could be scheduling as I'm speaking if you wish. Like I said, it auto saves. You do have to have a minimum of 6 credits by the time you're done. You could have that all done today. I don't know. You could have it all done 8 days from now. Either one is fine. There are no preloaded classes in your schedule except for math. Do know that conflict-wise, that's just the way it is. We created this a little bit. Juniors and seniors always had conflicts in their schedule. So what you pick are, we call them your course requests. We can't guarantee that you are going to get everything you signed up for. They're your course requests, we hope, but there are places where some things are going to run into other things. They're going to be offered the exact same hour. We made that a little bit more likely when we added a couple AP classes last year to the menu that weren't there before. We kind of split the field, and what that does is that means everything is only offered in 1 hour instead of 2 or 3. When you offer more things, each of those things gets offered less often overall, so there's more chance of conflict. So that's just the way it is. You take your shot, take the classes you think you want the most. When there's a conflict, then we have to work out and you have to take something else. We'll know that. We'll know the conflicts probably usually it's about a week into April that we find out. The schedules come out with hours on them, and we're able to let you know that. So anyway, and we'll take care of you guys at that time, getting through your conflicts. If you guys have any questions, myself, your homeroom teacher are great. The course descriptions are written by the teacher who actually teaches the class. Great place to go. A lot of information inside homeroom, a lot of information inside classroom. Again, if you need anything, please let us know, and we will help you out in any way we can. Thank you very much.